folks. Last night was the top 13 on Season 10 of American Idol, singing songs from their idols. Pretty much another one of those wide-open, sing-whatever-you-want things. The contestants worked with a whole bunch of producers, which kinda to me didn't feel that much different than the celebrity mentors of seasons past, except I didn't know any of these people. We were introduced to our new permanent mentor, Jimmy Iovine, and he wasn't quite what I was expecting. You know, I always was under the assumption that he was brought on to be to fill the Simon Cowell type role of toughness, and he didn't really seem that tough, though I expect, though, that the ratings are probably doing so well, and people seem to like this new theme of kindness that's going on this season, that he probably got a stand-down order and was told not to be so rough. And so I expect he'll probably get tougher as the season goes along, and if we see the ratings start to take a nosedive, then we'll probably see Jimmy Iovine transform into a monster right in front of our eyes. I thought it was a pretty good show. There were no real standouts. There were a few good performances and a few bad ones, but I was entertained overall. The first performance of the night was Alaina singing Any Man of Mine by Shania Twain. Lauren said that Shania Twain was the first female artist to mix pop and country together. In what alternate reality is she speaking of? Pop and country were crossing over with each other way before Shania Twain ever came along. I guess she's never heard of Crystal Gayle, Olivia Newton-John, Dolly Parton. But I suppose Shania was the first one to do it in Lauren's lifetime. This week, Lauren was one of those that really had a free pass to come out and do really whatever she wanted without having to worry about going home, and I guess that's exactly what she did, because if she was trying to impress with that performance, she is going about it all wrong. I thought this was very karaoke. To me, it felt very forced. I thought she oversang it, and even her mannerisms seemed a little bit dramatic and over-dramatic. I didn't like it at all. I kind of felt like she was trying to duplicate the good performance that she had last week, and it didn't even come close. Though I think she'll be fine this week. She isn't quite the frontrunner she once was, though. Well, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for her. It's pretty rare for somebody to start out as a frontrunner, maintain the frontrunner status, and then go on to win. I know I can't be the only one that feels this way, though, but coming into the top 24, this is not the Lauren Alaina that I was really expecting. We hadn't really heard any country from her until last week, and I really had no idea that she was going to be a country girl. Especially, you know, early on she had gotten comparisons to Kelly Clarkson, who took to the Twitter last week to say, not this Kelly, maybe Kelly Pickler. Stephen wished that it had been a little bit more kick-ass. Jennifer wants her to kick it into high gear, and Randy echoed the other judges. Lauren does not handle criticism well, though. The look that she was giving the judges was almost to say, how dare they? Lauren said that she didn't want to do a ballad because that's what everybody else is doing. Basing your performances on what other people are doing is always a mistake. Number 2 of the night was Casey Abrams with A Little Help from My Friends by Joe Cocker. Casey remembers growing up to this song on the Wonder Years. I used to hate that show, but I was forced to watch it every week since I wasn't big enough or strong enough to commandeer the remote control. But they showed clips from last season when Joe Cocker sang this song with Lita Wise, and I still laugh to this day when I think about the irony of Lita Wise singing, "What would you do if I sang out of tune?" Crown you the American Idol winner, I suppose, obviously. Jimmy Iovine wanted Casey to feel this song like Joe Cocker feels it. If Casey had sang like Joe Cocker sang at the finale, I would have been rolling on the floor. Unfortunately, it didn't entertain me as much as Joe Cocker did last year. He did sound slightly better than Lee and Joe Cocker together, but I still don't see the appeal. Casey, to me, feels like this massive joke that everybody else gets, and I just don't get it. Everywhere I go online, people seem to love him. To me, it feels exactly like the Taylor Hicks craze of Season 5. Everywhere I went, I heard Soul Patrol. Everybody was a member of the Soul Patrol. It was like madness. Now you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody that will admit to having been a voting member of the Soul Patrol. And I know some people are saying that they aren't anything alike, and Casey is much better than Taylor, and for argument's sake, let's say that's true. Still, the biggest similarity I see is that people are more entertained by watching him. If you take away the visual, there really isn't anything left. I don't think that any of that is going to translate to record sales. But I think he has a real shot at winning, which is as much as I'd hate to see it happen. Jennifer said at one point she grabbed Randy and said, "What am I watching right now?" I actually said the same thing, but I don't think we meant it in the same way. Randy said, "You make listening to you fun." Stephen called him a rainbow of talent and a plethora of passion. Isn't it hard to believe that Casey Abrams is actually younger than David Archuleta? Next was Ashthon Jones singing When You Tell Me That You Love Me by Diana Ross. Now here is the first time of the night that we see a contestant take the judge's advice way too literally. Just because she was compared to Diana Ross last week doesn't mean she has to come out and sing a Diana Ross song this week. I thought it was a huge mistake. Jimmy Iovine, though, was so impressed with her that he invited Barry Gordy to come sit in the audience, and if Ashthon was the sole reason for him showing up, he really could have saved himself the cost of a plane ticket. I thought Ashthon looked fantastic, but and she really didn't sound that bad for the most part, except for the big note that was a little bit out of her reach, and all the heavy breathing at the beginning when it sounded like somebody was trying to show her that they loved her. But I thought it was a terrible song choice. Not really a popular song, and nowhere near current. I thought Ashthon was on the right track last week with her more current R&B sound. If the judges want her to be old school Motown, they really are setting her up for failure. And I think she'll most definitely be in the bottom 3 this week, probably going home. I like Ashthon, but we are not going to be seeing her on the tour. Randy thought she did herself some good with that song. I think Randy was wrong. Steven said that there is a lot more in there. Jennifer wants her to sing songs that we can sing along with. Sadly, I don't think she's going to have that chance. Next was Paul McDonald singing Come Pick Me Up by Ryan Adams with an R. Jimmy Iovine told Paul that he really needs to nail the chorus. I think somebody needs to nail Paul's feet to the stage. He was hopping around all over the place. Now, I realize that the judges enjoyed his spastic moves last week, but I think he took it way overboard this week. It was like he was trying to dodge the cameras. I mean, the camera guy's got a better workout than he did. I thought the whole thing was ridiculous. And he sounded like a total mess, too. I was in the bathroom when it first started, and I thought, what in the hell is he doing? And then I came out and started watching him, and it was just a mess. He sounded terrible, but I do think he'll survive this week because it was entertaining in a circus clown sort of way. Steven thought it was a little pitchy. I didn't expect Steven to be the one to resurrect the P word this year. Does anybody else think that the producers made him spend the week watching old episodes to get a feel for what he was supposed to be doing since he'd never really watched the show before? He seems to be a lot better at judging this week than he was last week. Jennifer hopes that America gets it. Randy loves Paul's character. Then, of course, Ryan hopped around while announcing Paul's number. Next was Pia Toscano. She sang All By Myself by Celine Dion. Now, I really did not like Pia's dress. It was like she couldn't decide if she wanted to wear a short dress or a long dress, so she went with a hybrid, short in the front and long in the back, kind of like a mullet. Actually, it was like one of James Durbin's tails, except it was just wider. Anyway, Pia has loved Celine Dion since she was 8 years old, and she wanted to sing this song for her dad. That's funny. Celine Dion sang this song for her dad. Oh, no, wait, that was her husband. Looked like her dad, though. Moving on, though, Pia sounded fantastic. I think she's really setting herself up as a frontrunner. My biggest complaint was kind of a sound-alike, which is not a terrible thing. I mean, I love Celine Dion, but it was like she was hitting all the notes exactly the way that Celine Dion hit them. So there wasn't really anything unique about it. Plus, I didn't like the way it was arranged. It's like she did one quick verse and then went straight into the chorus to show off the big notes. And it felt like the majority of the song was just trying to find 25 different ways to say all by myself. And over and over and over again. So I think maybe it would have worked better with like 2 verses and then the chorus, but what do I know? It was still a solid performance. She's not going anywhere this week. Jennifer Lopez was speechless at first. Of course, that's how she tried to play it off. She looks down an awful lot when she's talking, though, does it? Does anybody else get the sense that she's reading notes? Well, I know I look at my notes a lot, too, but, I'm trying to recap the whole show at one sitting. If I could, cover them one at a time between performances, I probably would look straight at them instead of, looking down at paper. I thought she was an actress. Shouldn't she be a pro at memorizing her lines? Anyway, Randy said it was very hot, dope, cool performance. Steven said that she polished that apple and wished her a happy International Woman's Day. Next was James Durbin singing Maybe I'm Amazed by Paul McCartney. James came out without the tail this week. Maybe Pia Toscano stole it from him. I thought this was a perfect song choice for James. It's not the hard rock type song that he did last week, but it was still rock, so it didn't feel like James was jumping off to another planet. And this song involved more singing. Last week's, it was kind of a screamer song last week. And this week, James proved that not only is he a very good screamer, he's also a very good singer. There were a couple of times that I thought it was getting a little too shouty, but he pulled it back for the most part. And when he did the little ooh, the little falsetto, I thought that was perfect. Vocally, it wasn't a perfect performance overall, but I liked it. Randy said, James Durbin is dangerous, America. This dude can sing. Of course, that was after he reminded us that he was in Journey for 15 minutes. Steven said, you have taken everything you have ever felt and kicked it into the middle of next week. J-Lo said, you have what the greatest rock singers have, which is a melodic quality. She stole that from Steven Tyler. Next was Haley Reinhart. She sang Blue by LeAnn Rimes. Boy, this girl just has no idea who she wants to be. The themes have been wide open so she can sing whatever she wants. So last week she does Alicia Keys, and this week she sings an old LeAnn Rimes song that involves some minor yodeling. It's like I said last week, it's as if there are 5 different voices all fighting to come out of her. And she doesn't know which one to go with. Everybody else is pretty much establishing who they're going to be when they're off the show, what kind of record they want to make, and she's just all over the place. I didn't like this performance at all. I thought it was growly in places where it really shouldn't have been, and it was not nearly as good as LeAnn Rimes. You know, as Steven Tyler correctly pointed out, this song was originally written for Patsy Cline, who I just love, and the guy that wrote it basically put it on the shelf for 30 years until LeAnn Rimes came along, and she was 13 when she recorded this song. I used to be a huge LeAnn Rimes fan back in the day when she did the old school country, but she quit doing that and I didn't really like her anymore. Speaking of old school country, I went to see Loretta Lynn in concert last week. Great show. The woman is damn near 80 years old, could barely stand up, but she'd still mop the floor with Haley Reinhart. But moving on, Steven said if you listen close, you can hear country and western part of America roaring. That's called booing, Steven. If you heard any roaring, it's coming from inside Haley. J-Lo thinks that America is really getting to know Haley now. I fail to see how that's true. And the voice of reason, Randy Jackson, thought it was boring. Next was Jacob Lusk singing I Believe I Can Fly by R. Kelly. Now this is a song that I used to love when it first came out, but after hearing it on the radio 65 times a day, I pretty much grew to hate it. But the song choice wasn't really surprising, you know, it's right up Jacob's alley. I was expecting him to come out and slay it, but by the end of the song, it sounded like somebody was slaying him. For me, this was the most horrific performance of the night. It started out decent for the first few seconds, even though Jacob really wasn't singing as well as he usually does. He's usually spot on, but when he really got into it, it was just a big screaming mess. I thought he sounded terrible. If it wasn't for the backup singers, I wouldn't even know what song he was singing. It was really horrible. I hated it. Steven said, your wings and your voice will soar beyond your wildest dreams. Jennifer thought it was amazing, and Randy said Jacob has such a signature sound. Next was Thia Megia. She sang Smile by Michael Jackson. Now, Thia didn't know this song was originally by Charlie Chaplin. She didn't even know who Charlie Chaplin was. She called him Charlie Chapman. Another instance of a contestant taking what the judges said too literally. Now, last week, Randy compared Thia to Michael Jackson. The worst thing she could do is come out and do a song that Michael Jackson has done. All Thia really proved with that song is that Randy Jackson needs to be on some serious medication. Actually, I thought it started out quite nice. If Thia had done the second half of the song like she did the first half, it would have been beautiful. Overall, it was still better than Paige Miles did it last season, but the last half of the song turned into this whole strange, jazzy type thing, and it kind of ruined the whole performance for me. I wouldn't be surprised to see Thia in the bottom three, though I think she'll be safe this week. Randy loved the beginning more than the end, and he again compared Thia to Michael Jackson and Adele. Steven said Pia. I'm going to have to agree. Did y'all catch that when Steven called her Pia? I guess it can get a little bit confusing. J-Lo thinks she sings like an angel. Thia said, it's all in America's hands. I hope you keep this dream alive for me. Well, if you don't get more excited than that about it, then we're not going to. Next was Stefano Langone. He sang Lately by Stevie Wonder. I'm not really a Stevie Wonder fan at all, though I wasn't surprised to see Stefano pick a Stevie Wonder song. He already sang a Stevie song in Hollywood, and I actually like that when, he sang Sir Duke. I actually like that better than the Stevie Wonder version, but that was not the case with this song. I really didn't like the arrangement at all. Stefano sang it well, but it felt like he was trying to turn it into a dance song, where then there were no dancers. Where were the dancers? Maybe there were dancers and he accidentally swallowed them during rehearsal when he opened that mouth up so wide. You know what Stefano reminds me of when he sings and that mouth opens up so wide? Have you ever watched one of those snake documentaries and where it shows the snake like unhinging its jaw to eat whatever it is it's going to eat? That's kind of what Stefano does when he sings. It's like he unhinges his jaw to sing. You could throw a basketball in there, or a medium-sized mammal. Steven said the arrangement was crazy, and I thought so too, but Steven meant crazy in a good way. Jennifer said you had me dancing there for a minute, and Randy thinks that Stevie Wonder would be proud. Next was Karen Rodriguez singing I Could Fall in Love by Selena. Now apparently Karen is obsessed with Selena and even has some Selena Barbie dolls in her room at the mansion. Karen said that her version was going to be more edgy and that she was going to put a Beyonce kind of spin on it. Maybe I need to clean my ears out or something, but I didn't hear any kind of spin on it. If anything, it was slower and less edgy than the original, I thought. In theory, it should have been a really good song choice for Karen, but I thought it turned into a mess. There were a few good parts that she did okay, but for the most part, Karen didn't even sound good, which is too bad because usually she sounds pretty good even when she does put me to sleep. I don't expect Karen to go home tonight, but if she doesn't really bring it next week, she might not make it to the top 10. J-Lo wasn't very happy with it, but she told Karen that she's one of the strongest girls, and she hopes that she makes it through to next week. Randy said it felt like she was fighting the song. Steven knows that she can sing much better and wants to see her bring that next week. Next was Scotty McCreery. He sang The River by Garth Brooks, one of my favorite Garth Brooks songs, and I was hoping Scotty would sing some Garth Brooks since they have the same kind of feel to their voice. Did y'all know though that Scotty is a front runner now? Who would have thunk it just few weeks ago that Scotty McCreery would end up a frontrunner, and that's no small achievement for a pure country boy like Scotty. They don't really seem to do quite as well on the show as it seems like Scotty is getting ready to do, but I'm definitely seeing more buzz about him online than anybody, and he seems to be leading the pack in Facebook and Twitter followers, but I think he's going to have to walk a fine line with that. You know, a lot of people are saying that they don't even like country music, but they love Scotty. Well, the songs he's done so far, they haven't been overwhelmingly honky-tonk. Letters from Home and The River, you know, pretty non-threatening, kind of safe songs. My biggest fear for Scotty is that when the real country boy comes out with an upbeat honky-tonk song, and I think eventually he'll have to do that, but there might be some people that'll step back to reality and say, wait a minute, I don't even like country music, and will stop voting for him. So he really should avoid the whiskey, women, and tractors type country, but I think he's going to be just fine for now. I thought he did a really good job with this song. There were a couple of little rough patches, and at one point I thought he was forgetting to sing into the microphone, and I could barely hear him, but overall he did a really good job. The crowd loved it. They seemed to go on forever for Scotty. Randy said, if it ain't broke, don't even think about fixing it, and he loved it. Steven said, well, I'm not quite sure what Steven Tyler said. Jennifer said, now you're taking us all on the ride with you. And number 36 of the night was Naima Adedapo. Well, Ryan said that she got the number 36, because so nobody would get the unlucky number 13, but as we all found out back in season 8, that 866 Idols 13 number is actually a phone sex line. Anyway, she sang Umbrella by Rihanna. Now that was a very surprising song choice. I was really expecting Naima to come out and sing an old, slow, boring song like she did twice last week. Instead, we saw a whole new Naima Adedapo. I thought it started out a little sloppy, but she picked it up. I loved the dancing and the way she worked the stage and all the lightning and all that. Overall, I thought it was a great performance. Very impressive. Naima is definitely going to be safe tonight. Steven said that it was crazy good, but a little pitchy. J-Lo didn't care about pitchy because Naima has fire. She said that Naima has to work on control, and Randy does care about the pitchiness, but he loved the reggae spin on it. He wished she would have done the whole song like that. Naima dedicated the song to her husband, and I wasn't exactly sure what she was saying, but you pretty much get the gist of it, but whatever. So anyway, my top three for the night were Pia, Scotty, and Naima, and my bottom three would be Jacob, Haley, and Paul, though I predict the bottom three will probably be Paul, Haley, and Ashthon, with Ashthon going home. I don't think she's going to stick around for another week. So who was your favorite and least favorite performances of the night? Tonight we'll have results with performances from J-Lo's former squeeze Diddy Dirty Money, or whatever he's calling himself these days, and Adam Lambert. I'll see you folks tomorrow.